Welcome to part 2 of learning how to use Premiere Pro. So in this part, we're going to go over enabling and disabling clips, linking and unlinking clips, using the denoising effect, the color correction effects. We're also going to go into video editing, and this is going to include using the razor tool. We're going to learn how to trim, use transition effects, fade effects. We're going to learn multiple ways to move footage along the timeline. We're also going to learn how to speed up the video. So the first thing we're going to go over is how to enable and disable clips. So if you right click on a clip, you will see that you can enable and disable the clip here. As you can see now, the clip has turned darker, and if I hit play, nothing shows up and there's no audio. That's because this clip has been disabled. You can go here and click on enable again to make the clip live. So that's one way that you can enable or disable a clip. You can disable an entire timeline by clicking on the eyeball, which will turn off this timeline, or you can click on M to mute this timeline. This comes in handy if you have multiple layers of audio or video and you want to just see one layer. You can turn off multiple layers of audio and video. Another feature is to link and unlink clips. So right now, if I were to move the video along the timeline, the audio goes with it. The audio and video are one because they are linked together. So if I were to cut the video here, it would also cut the audio in the exact same timestamp. In order to unlink these, I would right click on unlink, and now you can see that when I select one of these, it does not highlight both because they are unlinked. I can also move just one along the timeline. And if I would cut the video here, it would not cut the audio in the same spot. In order to relink a clip with a video or clips or videos, you would highlight everything you want to link, right click, and click link. A big feature that multiple people might want to use would be color correcting a video or denoising audio. In the case of this video, this has already been finalized, color corrected and put together. But for the purposes of the training, in order to color correct, you would go up and you would select color here at the top, right next to editing. And now you will have these options over here on the right to white balance. You can change the temperatures, the exposure. You could turn the exposure way up, turn it way down. You could do the same with the contrast, the highlighting, the shadows. So by doing this, you can get your video to look exactly as you would want it to look. I'm not sure how many of you will actually be utilizing the color correcting for the purposes of making educational videos, but for those of you who are interested, that is how you do it. Go back to editing. Now we're going to learn how to denoise. So what you might learn as you are going along making these videos is that the microphone might be a little far from your mouth, so you might need to denoise some background. Now, whenever I say denoise, you can't denoise cars going by. You can't denoise a dog barking or a person talking or a music playing, but you can denoise the room sound. So, for example, if I wanted to denoise this video, so this video already has music put into it, and John Carlos' voice is already incorporated with the music. If there is any background noise in this video, it's pretty minor, but in order to denoise, you would go to Effects, which is the top of the screen next to Color. Go over to Effects. You could either search for it by clicking on Audio and finding it, or you could just search for it in the search bar by typing in denoise. You'll notice there's a denoiser, which is obsolete, and a denoise. You'll want to use the denoise. In order to denoise an audio clip, you would click on it, drag it, and drop it onto the audio clip that you would like to denoise. So if you do plan on denoising, let's say a 45-minute to hour and a half long video that you've created, you will want to denoise before you make your cuts, only because it would be one drag and drop as opposed to dragging and dropping in many different audio clips once they are cut into different parts. You will understand this more as we go along and make cuts. So once you drag and drop the denoise over, you can go back to editing. You can click on the clip that you would like to denoise and go over here to the source screen and change it to effect controls. Now, when you click on effect controls, it's going to show all of these effect controls that you can change. This includes the audio and the video because these are linked. When they're linked, it'll show motion, the position, the scale, rotation, anchor point, etc., which we'll go over next. And it'll show any effect that you've added. Right now, we've added the denoise effect. So it is showing the denoise effect as an option. Automatically, denoise sets to about 40% here. So it's already being used at 40. If I hit play, you can turn the effect off so you can hear the original. And while you're listening, you can click on this and it'll turn it off, and then you'll see the effect come into play, and you'll notice a big change if in fact you have background noise. You can change how much background noise it takes out by turning the percentage up by dragging this along the amount. Or you can go over here and you can type in what you want. So let's say 75. I will say that the higher you go, the more it will distort the actual voice. So just pick a spot that takes out as much of the background noise as you would like, but also does not distort your voice. You can also delete this if you no longer want it by going into denoise and clicking delete, or you can Control Z to undo. So anytime you make a deletion or you make a mistake, Control Z will undo that. You can also just turn the effect off by clicking on the effect FX. If I turn it off, it will not be exported and it will not actually be in use. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to just delete that. Now you have motion, position, scale. So these are going to be for the video part, which is up here. If I double click on the video, it'll show the points at which I could grab a hold of the video and make it larger, smaller. I could click on it and move it around, right? Control Z will take it back to its original. You could also go over here and you could click on this and type in your coordinates, or you can click and hold and drag it to the right or to the left. You can do the same with the scale, click and hold, or I can type in back to normal. We'll do 100. Rotation, the same. The opacity, I can turn it all the way down. So if there were two videos here and I was turning the opacity down, you would see the other video kind of popping through this. So those are your main effects controls. Again, you're probably not going to use many of these whenever you're putting together your educational videos, but for those of you who want to learn how to utilize these tools, I'm going to include them. So now we're going to go into video editing. You'll see to the left of the timeline the toolbar, which this is the default location. You can move it anywhere you'd like by clicking on it and dragging it and dropping it, but I'm going to keep it here. So let's go ahead and use the main tools that you're going to use. One is the razor tool. You can either click on the razor tool by select it, or you can click the C button on your keyboard, which is the shortcut for the razor tool. And then in order to make a cut, you literally will just go to any point of the timeline where you would like to cut. Let's say I would like to cut after he finishes talking here. So he finishes talking here and starts talking here again. If I would like to cut the silence out of the middle, I could do so by zooming in on the timeline. To zoom in, you would click on the bottom. You can zoom out and zoom in just by moving along. Or you can use the plus and minus. I prefer plus and minus, and it will plus and minus to the point in which you have put the scrubber. So let's put the scrubber where we want to zoom in. Let's put it back here. Then click on the plus sign and it will zoom way in so you can cut more efficiently. So if I want to make a cut after he finishes talking, I'm just going to go ahead and click on the mouse and it will make a cut. Again, these are linked, so it's cutting both the video and the audio. If I want to cut out this deep breath he makes and begin with the first word, I would cut right here. And now you'll see that I have 3 separate audio and video tracks. They're all linked to each other. These 2 are linked, these 2 are linked, and these 2 are linked. If I want to delete the part that I cut out, I could either I could just click delete on my keyboard, or I could go back to the select tool by either going over here and clicking on selection, or clicking V as a shortcut, highlighting the part I want to delete, and then I would just click on delete. I could just delete it out. Now I'm left with these 2 pieces. Now I want to join these pieces together. So there's a few different ways that I can go about doing this. Since these are linked, I could grab one, drag it over, and it'll snap to these two, which are linked. Control Z. I could also right click in this area in between and click on Ripple Delete, and it will snap them together. Finally, I could click the shortcut A, and anything beyond the point of these two little arrows you see will be selected. Anything along the point. So this comes in handy because if I were to have multiple cuts and multiple audio and video pieces over here, and I wanted to move everything to the left so it would be joined with this piece, I would either have to select everything by clicking and holding Shift and then selecting all of these other multiple video and audio clips. I could click outside of the area and drag a square over top of everything. Again, right now we only have one, but imagine we have 20 video and audio clips over here. We would have to drag this over all of those clips to select them all. And this could become a bit of a problem because you will have to zoom in and out in order to select all these. The easiest way to go about this, if you're already zoomed into where you made your cut, would be to just click A, and anything beyond to the right of these two arrows, again, will be selected. That's the simplest way. You could drag it this way, and everything beyond this to the right will be moved to the left. So now, as you can see, it's going to distort the picture, but if you will notice the audio here, there's no more break in the audio. So again, it messes with the video because we cut a little piece of it out, so it does a little jump here. But the audio is what we're thinking about when it comes to cutting in this case. I'm going to Control Z this all the way back to the point where I didn't cut. So first I'm going to go back to my selection tool by clicking the selection tool over here, or clicking V, right clicking and unlinking these. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut just the audio, keep the video exactly as it is, and do the exact same thing. So as you'll notice, if I cut the audio here, it does not cut the video because they're no longer linked. Same here. Now I click V to get the selection tool, click on this point, delete it, and now you'll see I can't any longer use the A tool because it's going to select this. And I don't want to move this to the left because it would throw everything else out of sync. So in this case, I would have to select what it is I want to select with the V tool. And I would have to select just this, grab it, and drag it over. Now you'll notice the audio does not have a break and the video actually stays together. So that's a benefit of unlinking and linking things together. Just keep in mind that if you do this, everything else will probably be out of sync. Everything else here to the right is out of sync. So if I were to do that properly, I probably would have actually cut again here and add a filler. But again, this video is finished. It has audio and video underneath it. So the point of the tutorial is to just show you how to cut, and that is exactly how you cut. Another thing that you could do is just simply trim. So if I were to decide to cut the first, I don't know, let's go ahead and relink these. Let's say I want to cut all of the beginning here out to about here. There are a couple different ways I could do that. I could either cut like we just did, and then selection tool, V, or selecting it, and then clicking delete. And then this would be the new beginning of the video, and I could ripple delete that all the way to 0 on the timestamp, and then hit play, and it starts right here. Another way I could do that is I could trim it. So you can only trim from the edge of a video. So right now I can trim from the beginning because it is the edge of the video. So you could just go to the very edge of the video where the selection tool turns into this little red arrow, click, hold, and drag. And it will trim the audio and the video, simply like that. If you make a cut somewhere, you could also trim from that area in either direction. I could also, if I make a cut here, instead of highlighting and deleting this, I could simply grab a hold of everything in front of it, drag it over, and drop it on top, and it will automatically delete that. So as you can see, there are multiple ways to cut, to trim, and to delete things. If I wanted to make a transition between these two audio clips, I would simply right-click in the middle. Well, right now these are, again, linked. So if I do a apply to default transition, it's going to do a default transition on both the audio and video. As you can see, you can always click on one and delete it by clicking delete. The other thing you can do with a transition is you could grab a hold of the edge and you can make it as small or as long as you would like. If I decide to change the effect from cross dissolve, I could go to effects, click on video transitions here, a little caret drop down menu, and it will provide me with multiple transitions. There are wipes, slides, page peels. There's all kinds of different options you could, if you want to utilize them, you would just click on it, drag, and drop it onto the actual transition, and then it will apply that transition. So that's how you do transitions with audio and video. So with audio, you'll use the transitions much less. I typically will always do a transition on an audio cut, but the only thing I do is I make a transition and make it as small as possible. And I only do that because if there is a cut in an audio transition, there could be a minor click, which nobody would really notice, but probably the editor. So the editor and me does this on every little audio transition, and it just takes that click away if there is a click. So I'm going to undo that cut and move on to fades. So a fade in or out, let's say I want to fade, I'm going to unlink these. Let's say that I want the video to end around this point instead of where it does, but I want the audio to continue out to fade away. And I want everything to kind of be a little bit sooner than it is. So right now the audio cuts off because I trimmed it, but I want that to fade out. I also want the video to fade to black around this point. To do that, I would just right-click on the edge like I've done whenever there's a cut, apply default transitions, and it will make a fade. Same with the audio, and you can drag this audio so it transitions to 0 decibels by the time it hits the end here. So yeah, that's how you do a fade in or out. You typically use fades at the beginning or the end of an audio or video track. Something to keep in mind with the audio is whenever, I'm going to go back to editing, whenever you are editing, you want to make sure that the audio isn't being blown out. So you want it to be in between -9 and -15. -6 and -18 is all right. Once you get to -3 or higher, you start to blow out the audio. So for example, I can change my audio gain by right-clicking on the audio and clicking audio gain, and I can add or subtract multiple decibels. Right now I'm going to add 15, an absurd amount, just so you can see what it looks like when it's blown out. Now you can see that this is blown out, and you'll watch the monitor here whenever I hit play. It leaves a red track, it turns red. You don't want that. So if you have something blown out, you can click on audio gain, and you can do a negative however many. I'm going to do 15 to put it back to where it was. And that'll change the actual audio file. If something's recorded in a blown out fashion, it's going to be hard to fix because you can't take something that's blown out and fix it. You can only take something that sounds good and up the decibels to the point where it gets blown out. So just keeping that in mind. If you're doing a tutorial video, you may want to speed up a process in which you're putting something together. Let's say it takes you 20 minutes to put something together, but you want to have the students still see you kind of doing it. You can do that by speeding up your video. In order to speed up a video, you could cut anywhere that you would want. Let's say that half of this video is a process. I could make a cut here, And I could speed this part of the video up by right-clicking or selecting it so it's highlighted, right-clicking, speed duration, and pick a speed. Let's do 500 again. So that's how you would do a time-lapse effect video if you are putting an educational video together and you don't want a process that takes 20 minutes to take up 20 whole minutes of the video, but you want it to only take up a few seconds to maybe a minute. So if you take 20 minutes and you speed it up to a minute, you're going to get a pretty good understanding as a student of all of the work that went into doing exactly what it is you're doing without the exact steps. So in the next video, we are going to go over some more audio editing, and then we will move on to rendering a video, adding titles or texts, and exporting files.